Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Lean Publishing Tip of the Day live stream, where I'm going to be talking about why you shouldn't worry about hitting the publish button on your book. Um, uh, yeah, as always, if you're watching the recording of this video, please skip ahead to the 2-minute mark. For the live stream, we just give people a couple minutes, whoever happens to be online, and notice that we're doing this. Give them a couple minutes to join, but mostly these videos are intended for people who are going to be watching them later on. As always, just the quick programming notes. There is a blog post that accompanies each of these Lean Publishing Tip of the Day live streams, and you can find the recordings for them, of course, on our YouTube channel at LeanPub. Just look for the Lean Publishing Tip of the Day playlist. We're approaching kind of the 100 mark pretty soon for these, and we're going to be hopefully recording them more regularly. The idea is to have a kind of, recently updated kind of, commentary from me, the easy to watch kind of informal video about LeanPub features and LeanPub practices and processes, and, book marketing and self-publishing questions and all kinds of stuff. So it's essentially a kind of public book publishing, book writing, it's kind of self-publishing kind of video blog, I guess, slash help center slash kind of, advice column, I suppose. If there's anything that you'd like me to talk about on one of these Lean Publishing Tips of the Day, please reach out to us on social media or reach out at hello@leanpub.com via email if you prefer to do it that way. And yeah, you can also, and just as I always like to say, you can ask me to talk about something that I've talked about before. You can ask me to talk about something I've never talked about. Yeah, I just love doing these tips of the day, getting our thoughts out there. And, it is an evolved, book publishing is an ancient industry or practice, but it's also evolving fast these days. So we're hopefully going to be able to keep a kind of, record of what's going on now. We're, suggesting authors handle it. So here we go. We're approaching the 2-minute mark. So 3, 2, 1. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 2-minute mark of this recorded live stream, Lean Publishing Tip of the Day. Today, I'm going to be talking about why you shouldn't worry about hitting the publish button. That's sort of like, if you're not familiar with LeanPub, that might sound like a little funny, but if you've ever sent an email newsletter, for example, and you remember the old MailChimp kind of like sweaty finger, it can be kind of stressful and daunting and all kinds of other sort of, words to capture the kind of feelings and, responsibilities and implications that come from sending something out to a lot of people. In this case, we're talking about clicking a button on an online platform to publish a book. And more specifically, we're talking about publishing a version of a book. So on LeanPub, we make it really easy to hit the publish button for the first time. For many people, they might think, why would I hit the publish button more than once? I just publish my book, that's it. On LeanPub, we actually we make it very easy to update your book. We do that for a number of reasons, one of which is we encourage people to publish essentially serially, but with the ability, so not only to add new chapters to your book as you write them, and of course, anyone who's bought your book in the past gets all the new chapters for free until you're done, but we make it really easy to sort of change what you've already published. So if you find a typo in chapter 1, or you think you want to swap places for chapter 1 and chapter 5, or anything you want to do to your book, you can actually change it after you've hit the publish button. So one reason you shouldn't worry, the most obvious reason that you shouldn't worry about hitting the publish button on your book, whether it's the first time or the 10th time, or the 100th time. And by the way, if you get used to LeanPub, you'll actually discover why you would publish 100 versions of your book. Most of them wouldn't be announced to the public, of course. But anyway, we make it very easy to do that because people might reach out to you. They might be like, hey, there's a typo on page 10. You can easily just change that and click a button and update it for the bookstore and for everyone who's already bought it. I think that's a subtlety or a kind of feature that we don't emphasize enough. When someone buys your LeanPub book and they go to their LeanPub library, when they click the button to download it, they download the latest version of your book. So the last time you published your update of your book, that's what they download from their library. The copy isn't kind of constrained to the moment that they bought it. And so what that means is if someone buys your book, goes to their LeanPub library, downloads it, they find a typo on page 10, they contact you on social media, hey, at so-and-so, there's a typo on page 10, here it is. You can, if you see that post, you can just go into your manuscript, make the correction, click the publish button again on LeanPub, and boom, that change is live, not just for everybody who buys your book going forward, but for that very person. You can go, thanks, I just fixed it. And they can go back to their LeanPub library, and even if it's like 5 minutes later, they can download a new copy of your book, and boom, it'll be the corrected version. Another reason that it can be stressful to hit the publish button on a book is, in a sense, kind of. I mean, there's very real world reasons why it can be stressful. Um, in the blog post, I talk about that a little bit about how for example, if you've got a bunch of kind of like if you've got a big launch date planned and you've got a big marketing budget and you've got a big publishing company behind you and you're one of the people that they're really promoting, the book's going to you've kind of like paid for a big print run of like thousands of copies of your book. They've all been distributed to bookstores across the country. And they're going to be, you've paid for placement on bookshelves on a specific day. You've lined up a bunch of talk show appearances. You've sort of like gotten in touch with whatever the big book review organizations and magazines are now, and you've timed publication of a review of your book to go out on a certain date to promote your book. If all of this is money has been spent and all this coordination has been done in PR and stuff like that, then yeah, hitting the publish, if you've done like thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars of pre-sales and there's a launch date when people who paid money for your book are expecting to get it, yes, then hitting the publish button is an incredibly stressful thing, particularly with respect to those print books, because anything you do at that point is irreversible. Does that sound like the question for me to ask then is the reason I sort of set that up is like, does that sound like you? Are you in that position? Chances are that you're not. Even if your book has been taken up by a big publishing company, it's being published by them. That situation, I mean, the print issue is still there, of course. If they're doing a big bulk print run in order to save money, hopefully save money per copy. Uh, but chances are that this is nothing like the situation that you're in if you're a self-published author. Um, and in fact, you might get to that point one day. But if you use LeanPub, you start to publish your book, work on it in public, kind of, not just adding new chapters, but like responding to feedback, maybe improving what you've already written and published, and publishing new versions again with the improvements. It could be that at the end of that process, and this is our ideal, basically, is that now, wow, maybe now you've written this amazing book. It's been sort of, battle tested by being out there in public. Maybe a big publisher comes along and goes, oh my goodness, this is an amazing book. Look at all the readers that this author has already gotten for themselves, self-publishing. Now I'm going to give them a book contract or offer them a book contract, and I'm going to take them up and I'm going to do the kind of marketing and stuff like that. At that point, you're not the one hitting the publish button anyway. The publisher is. So when it comes to self-publishing, it's important to kind of, I think, let a lot of those kind of what you might think of as kind of legacy or, even kind of stereotypes kind of that you might have internalized, as I certainly had in my life, let them go. And remember also that anybody who buys your book is interested in you, and they're interested in your book, and they want it to be good, and they want you and they want you to be a great author, and they want if you're doing this sort of lean publishing process, they want to help you make your book better if they can. And so people want you to succeed, they want it to be good. um, of course, that's all kind of setting aside the fact that, yes, if you do anything public, and I guess this is something to talk about in this context, yes, you should be concerned about, criticism. You should be concerned about blowback. You should, if that's happening, it means people are paying attention to you, obviously, which is one of the reasons where, the kind of somewhat cynical "no press is bad press" saying comes from. But of course, bad press, if you're not, kind of hardened to it, is very stressful, bad attention, and there can be all kinds of very, very negative attention. If you're worried about that kind of thing, I think we have a Help Center article where we talk about that a little bit, about handling negative attention online. Of course, if you follow kind of celebrities and sort of famous people, William Shatner is one of the favorite people that I follow on social media. They talk openly. People like that who are like really love social media, even though they get a lot of negative attention, talk about using the mute button. You can mute people on most platforms. I highly recommend you do that. If you're worried about getting negative attention, just do that. If you're getting spam, if you're getting kind of um, uh, phishing attempts, if you're getting people offering you fake marketing services and stuff like that, you know, market is junk. Just remember this, getting unexpected, unwanted email is a part of being out there in public. Getting kind of the odd kind of negative comment is also a part of being out there in public. When it comes to that kind of negative attention, I would also suggest you pick your platforms wisely that you want to be on. If you're getting lots of negative attention on a particular platform, what kind of people are using that platform? I mean, you've maybe just learned, and you might want to get off that platform. Uh, or again, generously use the mute button if it's there. If you're worried about negative attention as well, one thing to do is to remember that the very little formal kind of, I guess, kind of formal media training I've ever had. The one I think the person who did the training with me, they said if there's one thing you remember from this, it's that you don't have to answer a question. You don't have to respond to something, anything at all. So if you're worried about that, about negative attention, negative responses, one thing to keep in mind is that you actually don't have to answer. Uh, but with that said, it's although if you're not used to it, even one negative comment or hurtful comment can hurt. I've been there. I still it bothers me when I see negative things. I think that's true of everybody, including very famous people and stuff like that. But uh, if you're publishing a book, if you're doing something in public, you are exposing yourself to that. And one thing I would say about like hitting the publish button, it's the same thing about as it is with the like hitting the record button to record a book launch video like I do, or podcasts or something like that. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The more you become kind of like a hardened pro. If you're going to be publishing something, if you want to get your work out there, if you want to get attention, some of it might be negative, and you will get better at it over time if you're encountering that kind of thing. And hitting the publish button is the kind of best way to get used to it. Um, so yeah, so I guess I don't really have a lot more to say on this topic right now. It's just that, yeah, if you one of the most important things you can do to get attention is to publish your book early. If you're self-publishing a book, hit the publish button after you finish the first chapter. Start telling people about it. Tell your friends and family. Tell people on your social media platforms and LinkedIn and wherever you are. Start getting attention. And yeah, and because LeanPub makes it dead easy to update anything, if there's an embarrassing typo or an embarrassing sort of inclusion, or people are reacting badly to something that you didn't, it's sort of like it came across the wrong way and you didn't think people would take it that way, you can easily update your book and explain why you've changed it, and things like that. So definitely, there's like a million reasons to not worry about hitting the publish button for your book on LeanPub. So thanks very much, everyone, for watching this. If you watched it live, and if you're watching the recording, thanks for watching. And please reach out to me if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about. And please like and subscribe and all of that. So thanks very much, everyone, for watching this Lean Publishing Tip of the Day recording.